Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Brian. I'm the host of the Left of Greg show. You're going to be watching the video version of our audio podcast. Please, guys, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be more content on there if you're already a subscriber, and a better way for us to get you guys some more stuff. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them below. Check out our links down below to get a hold of us and to actually find out more places where you can get more information about this. Please like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at HBPRNA. Remember, all these cases that we discuss and all these discussions that we have are through the lenses of what we call human behavior, pattern recognition, and analysis. So please like it, share it, tell your friends about it, and we hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. But,
so somebody would say, what prompted the idea for today's broadcast? And I would tell you that it was earlier this morning when I was running. I was wearing my "Make My Prostate Small Again" hat, and that made me think about the upcoming election.
So on that, as we get started, we do have to real quick. Last week, we recorded the Flat Earth podcast, and later that day or the next day, I think it was later that day, we got the news that one of
you got one killed. So I feel horrible about that.
One of these guys who was a flat earther was building his own rocket to shoot up high enough to see if he could see the Earth was round. Died in that.
And God, Buddha, Vishnu, Allah said, "Not so fast."
And
Poor guy.
That's not what I want out of these people. I don't think they deserve to die. I don't think any of them deserve to die. That's not where I was going. I don't want to bash them like that, but holy crap.
So you got to see, are you the monkey's paw? Do you get what I'm saying? Like all of a sudden we have it on the broadcast and then somebody dies. You got to worry about that. That's not fun.
Mean, we're used to predicting things and them coming true, but not when I don't like it when good people or people that don't deserve to die. I don't want that to happen.
So this Tobias, the German shooter, I've had it up to here before we get our formal start. Everything that people are writing is saying there is no way. There's photos and videos of him conducting the pre-surveillance and walking in with the jacket on, with his arms covered up, with the predatory looks and mission focus. Every single person is spending calories saying how it can't be done, and there's no way to profile these people, and it doesn't matter because it was a different language, and he was a German in a hookah bar with a wooden leg. Folks, all horse shit. Training changes behavior. If you have the training, the scales fall from your eyes and you see stuff like you didn't before. And that's the whole idea about getting to training, because all the electrolytes that you're burning, all the calories you're burning trying to say it can't be done, it's a waste of time. You could be filling that with good training time and saving lives.
Well, yeah.
I just get tired of it.
No. You get tired of it, and everyone gets tired of the same old crap they see all the time. So why don't we change the narrative? And I think that's part of why we do this, and part of why all these people are tuning in. So actually, real quick, thanks to everyone who
both of those people
and go to the Patreon site and do that. We appreciate those of you who've signed up. That's awesome. You guys can check out more and on YouTube at Left of Greg. So I just want to shout out to everyone. Also, if you could scroll down while you're listening to this and hit the like or 5-star rating button or something, that actually helps a lot.
Is there one on your side and one on my side?
Yeah.
And if so, am I getting more likes than you are? I just wonder.
Sure.
Sure I am.
So you're getting back to what we want to discuss
prostate
today is make your campaign slogan, if you were running for office, would be "Make my prostate small again." But that's unlikely. So we are coming up to that time.
And the hat's red too.
Right. Well, for different
all underwear should be brown, folks. I'm just saying.
Reasons. Exactly. Make underwear brown again. Anyway, you're coming. We're talking about it's because this is going to be released. Obviously, it's the first week of March. We got
Ides of March.
Yeah. The beware the Ides of March. Right.
Always.
Dates seem to, or attacks, significant events coalesce around together for a number of reasons. But it is that election week, so I know you wanted to start there and discuss.
Yeah. So Shelley's been doing in our town. Shelley's been doing the pre-election training, and we were talking about a topic. And Shelley's our CEO, folks, incredible instructor, plank holder, and former copper. And so we were talking about a couple of the attacks that had occurred recently Yesterday, a couple of kids were rammed off of their bicycles because they were wearing the shirts and colors and hats of a certain candidate.
Jesus.
And the people that rammed them off were adults in a motor vehicle that you would have never imagined that would do this. Last week, the guy that was celebrating his birthday, guy came up from behind him because he was wearing a certain color and a shape of a hat that he got for his birthday that had nothing to do with the elections, and knocked him out. And then, just one after the other in different places. And listen, I'm absolutely apolitical. My personal bent and the things that I do in my closet at home are my business. But when I come on the air, I would tell you.
And the business of the other person in that closet.
Exactly. Neck restraint. Positional restraint hypoxia. But the idea, folks, is we'll edit that out hopefully in post-production. The idea that Shelley was bringing up is, why do I feel that there were these certain areas that
Right.
we're bringing up? And I said it's very simple, Shell. Go back to white belt, natural line of drift, anchor point, habitual area. And here's the idea: when a terrorist or a criminal is going to attack you, they're not going to attack you at an anchor point. That's when you're strongest. That's your cave. That's your she shed or your man cave, where you've got everything hardened, and nobody in their right mind is going to come there. Then all of a sudden you've got the habitual area where you're out in public. You're at Disney. You're at the water park. You're on Virginia Beach with a bunch of folks. Okay, that's when you lose. You gain an anonymity because of the crowd, but you lose your situational awareness because you think the crowd is going to protect you. So that's where a well-placed bike bomb or a body bomb or a sniper or something is going to wreak havoc.
And at a simple level too, Greg, it's where people go. It's where people are.
Exactly.
They don't go attack out in the middle of the woods because there's nothing there. Right?
Precisely. And so if I'm doing targeting,
yes,
I don't have to look far. All I got to do is find a habitual area. So then the third point of that little star there, or triangle rather, would be a natural line of drift. When we're on a natural line of drift, we go into this autonomous mode where we're no longer thinking. That's why they used to say, you remember the insurance guy would always come on and he would say, hey, listen, you're in more danger at the last mile before you get home. Why? Because it's rote memorization. You black out. You don't even think about, black out. Well, there's St. Patrick's Day memory for Brian. Yeah. But the idea is that you don't think about it as much because your brain goes on impulse power.
And I know you didn't mean it like that, but there's actually a good way to put it. You didn't mean it that you don't actually physiologically black out unless you've consumed too many alcohol or drugs, but exactly. you do in a sense where with your level of attention and level of awareness, and that's you're more likely to pick up the phone and read a message or do whatever. And you won't do that when you're going somewhere new and you're looking for someone you're picking up at the airport, or you're in a new area that you're trying to find your way around, because you're doing, you'll even autonomically, without even realizing, turn down your car stereo. You'll turn the radio down.
Exactly.
Because you're trying to attend to what you're doing and what you're trying to do, whether it's driving or whatever, you're paying attention. But right, just like you said, the more times we do something, the more patterns we set, the more it becomes almost autonomic. You just start,
and that's when we're most dangerous, aren't we? Yeah. Aren't we most in peril when we're hyper agitated, hyper alert, or when there's absolutely no external stimuli? You get what I'm trying to say? So that's when we dumb it down. So in the natural line of drift, that's going from a place to a place, reminded me of the voting thing. So if you're going up to vote, and for example, last week, I think, Brian, when we talked on Friday, I had checked and there was over 1,000 articles that were talking about election. And what I entered, because I did a Brian, folks, I went with my big fat stubby fingers, I typed in there election day dangers. And I'm thinking about bombings. Brian, we're both vets of Iraq and Afghanistan.
That has to do with
Saudi Arabia when there were troubles with the elections and people getting blown up and shot. But in America, guess what they were all about? Voter fraud. You get what I'm trying to say? ID cards.
Right.
So a duplicitous standard that meant nothing to the natural line of drifting. So if we have talked about in previous episodes, pulling up to a restaurant, you've never been there before, and driving around it, then parking backed in the parking lot, a safe way away from the entrance, and just observing for a minute and look, listen, smell, feel the environment, check those atmospherics. Why wouldn't we say the same thing about an election day? Because election day, we're going from a habitual area and our own anchor point, following natural lines of drift, to another habitual area, which is kind of an anchor point too. So if you think of like a ball game, the dugout for each team is an anchor point, right?
For that
And
team,
so
right?
for that
You're
specific
not
team.
welcome there if you're not on that team.
No. So if you went over, like you're the bat boy for the Boston Stranglers, which their team color is black and purple. You
That's
know what I'm trying to say? So and you go
clearly not a
over,
baseball fan.
I don't know what it is. So you go over to the other thing, and it's the Nantucket Nitwits, and they're wearing yellow and blue, and you walk in with a bat, with that little, what a little donut thing that they put on the bat to make that son of a gun hurt better.
Yeah.
And you go in and you go, I'm the smartest MFer here, and you can all kiss my ass. How long until punches are thrown and it turns into one of those little Andy Cap cartoons where he's spinning around with his old lady doing a 10-16? That's going to happen. So you normally would avoid that situation unless you're a psycho and you want that fight. So why wouldn't you look at those 3 geographic indicators in your own life on a daily basis and anticipate? I would caution you, Brian, that it doesn't have to be just with danger. What about parking? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Okay, so is parking different in the morning by rush hour, at lunchtime when people are going to eat? You see what I'm trying to say? So if you were going to make a plan and you were going to sit down and take a look at your day and you were going to make an operation and say, operationally, this is my comms, this is how I'm going to do this is my advance party. Wouldn't you do that for an election? And I'm just saying,
no, because I'm lazy.
Yes. So why wouldn't you then? There's your point.
Well,
why wouldn't the normal human?
It's about what you're talking about is just how to avoid those situations, right? And it doesn't take a whole lot. But to getting into everything that this is all stuff that we discuss and how we break it down, but specifically for it's election time. So what does that mean for us?
High stakes. High stress.
Yes. This is what, and this is everyone.
You're
this
exactly
is us,
right,
especially. I would say it seems like, and I don't know, it's still a signal to noise ratio as with everything we're dealing with right now. But people are very, very. It's like a polarizing political time right now.
It's always so.
But I know, and I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
With you, but
I don't know how bad it really is because it's always been that way.
It's always been that way.
Maybe just the noise is louder right now. Maybe we turned it up to 11. Now, and then instead of
great comment, by the way, Spinal Tap. But the idea behind that too, Brian, is that now in an age of instant communication, that noise just noise. Is it just going to be ubiquitous and it's always around us? I would challenge you, and I would say that there were key things going on. World War II, Vietnam, a lot of different things with the women, the right to vote. You talk about, and we even go back to the 1800s, the Dred Scott, and talking about slavery. There was some real big ticket items going on our history. But we always want to think, that this time now, Goonies, Sean Astin, Tunnel, is the most important time, and that's not necessarily true, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, you can go back even just to the 60s. There were bombings in our country.
You can't go back to the 60s,
well, I can't.
Exactly.
And a lot of bomb threats. That was a big thing back then in the 60s. That was happening, and it was real. And that doesn't really happen as much. Now, it always changes. There's always something else that occurs, But the idea is, is it really that as bad as people say it is, or is there just a lot more noise and a lot less signal right now? And it's still always that signal noise ratio, right? Is how do I filter out the nonsense from what's actually going on? But either way, but
a person still could shoot you in your head.
But
because they fall for that nonsense.
Because as you mentioned too, and I said it when we were talking about doing something about this, like why do we come up with beware the Ides of March? That's a really really old saying, because things start to coalesce around this time. Because if politics gets us amped up and people argue about it, and it is emotional and people get very attached to it, so that means it's coming to a point right now. So that all that steam is building, right? And it's coming to the point now where one of those points would being a primary election time of when those emotions will be higher than normal. Yes. So that means we're more likely to act irrationally because of that, and you could get caught in the middle of that. Correct.
So yesterday morning, coming out of our front door at Rogue Manor West, Shelley punched a deer.
I believe
the reason is,
and that deer went and told everyone, and now there's no deer hanging out there.
There's none in Gunnison. But think about it, man.
They left the state.
There's 8 months of winter in Gunnison. Exactly. There's 8 months of winter in Gunnison, and you got to love the winter. You got to love the snow. You're not going to live up here. But there's also a thing that's called cabin fever. And sometimes cabin fever affects other people in other ways, right? And then we have this thing that we all talk about, that April showers bring May flowers. The Ides of March, there's no way. I wrote a lessons learned on it, folks. If you know what those are, please go to the site. They're free. You can look it up. But the idea is that people go, well, that happened in April, and Combine happened in April. This and happened, yeah. And we had the Roman stabbed in
Caesar.
the Ides of March, and everybody says, famous guy, yes, Caesar just eluded me right there. But the idea, Brian, is that if you take a look at it, everything happens in waves and cycles and particles and photons, and the idea is that it's no more dangerous than another period, but this is one of those spikes where a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot, like, for example, the glass ceiling and the night of elections, this a few years ago, the election, and people were up all night long, and nobody wanted to call it, even though there was information. Why? Because we delude ourselves and denude ourselves and think that our story is more important than other people's story, and we feel betrayed. We feel that, man, we were counting on this. What are we going to do now? And I would tell people, first of all, calm down. Okay, because what was the Hale-Bopp comment? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Everybody go out and buy your Nikes, and we're all going to die on this night.
That was out by me. Yeah, that was out here.
I know. I've lived in the land of fruit and nuts, and I've seen how egregiously ridiculous you guys are sometimes. I was visiting Brian in what's that suburb in San Diego that you live, Highland Park or whatever that was, and but I know that people sometimes do fringe stuff. The flat earther guy. Listen, folks, it's going to be all right. And we're not going to have this tumultuous change in these riots that people are predicting in a civil war unless you want them. And that's the problem sometimes with the news media, is they foment this type of hate and distrust and mistrust arguments because it sells news, Brian. You're not going to tune into a talk show where everybody goes, yeah, that pizza was great. Yeah, it was good pizza. Damn, that pizza was good. Nobody wants to watch that.
No, that's what it's all about. Someone's making money off of it.
Right.
That's what you got to remember. That was all the big thing, even when I had I don't know, other work that I had done, and it was involving.
You mean a criminal?
Well, it was involving buying large amount of weapons, but it was a military contract.
As far as the guy you were selling to.
No, but that was the whole thing. Was like, you look at it, people play off of everyone's emotions. So I had a friend who we thought about it, and we were just having beers, just talking about it one time. Like, man, like you could actually, we could actually make money off of something like that, where you look at the price of ammo or guns or something, like, well, you could buy them in bulk, and then when one of those things happens, what happens? It's like the stock market. Everything, the price goes up, everything doubles, and we could sell everything, and then when it comes back down again, we'll buy everything again and keep doing. I was like, wow, that's incredible. But we're going to be turning a profit off of really, really bad situations. We're like,
so at the bottom, put the number for the ATF going.
Yeah, probably not really. Yeah, no.
What are you, nuts?
No. But the point was,
but you knew what happened, but there was no scientific scrutiny
from inside looking out. You're going like, this is all BS. This is people just trying to make money off of everyone getting up in arms about something or getting emotional. So that applies to a lot. Or try to get politically elected to office, to whatever, I mean,
you're exactly right. But I want to take you back, Brian. I always want to make sure that we have that lens looking back, and not the jaundiced eye always looking forward or sideways for the walleye we met in Indiana. But the idea is, aka home of the wide head, and that's a shout out to our CEO right there. So, Brian, listen, have you ever heard that thing, when you go to somebody else's house, what are the topics that you don't ever want to talk about?
Yeah, it's politics, religion,
and you don't ever talk about politics.
Yeah.
Okay, so people say that, and there's others that other people around the country have filled in, or around the world. But the idea is, why? Because people historically have mass murdered, killed, maimed, undercut, and put down people of different sets. Do you get what I'm trying to say? When it came to their political or religious affiliation? Everything in moderation. Take your time. If you want change in this country, the great thing about our country is that you can vote it in or you can vote it out. But people forget that.
We
and
do.
Then we have the what I like to call the spilled milk phenomenon. That nobody is happy with whatever happens, and then we're dealing with the thing in Colorado right now that has to do with the long time before any of the other states, the not only legalization but the decriminalization of marijuana. And with that comes certain boons, billions of dollars of
Right.
unspent currency, cash that
Right.
nobody's sure what to do with. And so
Yeah, because
everybody's
there's.
looking at everybody else. Who's going to be first? And what are we going to do? Do we
Hmm.
legalize this and make it the ATM? Do we go to the federal route, or do we fix our
Yeah.
schools, right? So you got that part that's going on. Then you got the other part where the people are still saying, people my age and generally older are going, yeah, I get your point, but marijuana, my whole life has been illegal. So I don't
Right.
understand it, and I've associated it with
It.
dopers and idiots. And
Yep.
you see what I'm trying to say?
Oh yeah,
Whether
yeah.
it's right or not, Brian,
No,
I'm
no, no.
saying that the perception exists, yeah. And then
You're,
there's kids that are grown up that are being trained on Narcan because
which is
of
insane.
opioid
Yeah.
poisoning, right? So all those factions have to live in that same Fabergé egg, and every
And look
once in a while
through.
we peek in and say, which one are we?
Well, no, no, and you brought up that's a perfect example of all of these issues are it's two sides of the coin. Okay, like yeah,
Yes.
I get what you're trying to do here, but you're also not taking into account
Yep.
there's going to be there's going to be second and third order effects of this that you can't
Precisely.
necessarily control and you don't know. So why don't we take an approach? Because I get that too. It's the same thing. Like to me, my generation or my people, like my folks, my age and younger, are looking at all the drug stuff, going like, this is
Yep.
ridiculous. Why is
Why are we doing
marijuana?
this?
Well, why is marijuana illegal?
Exactly. Why are
Alcohol's
all
far
these
worse.
people in
And
jail
then,
hundreds of millions
but
of dollars?
at the same time, people forget like your perspective of being a cop for how
Yep.
long doing this. Like, look, I had to enforce the law.
And
So
no amount of
I
marijuana was legal.
yeah,
No
and
amount.
you're going. It's not that you're think that those people are horrible people or wrong.
No.
It's just
No.
look, man. This has been my perspective my whole life. I don't understand what you know, or I don't
Yep.
see it your way, and I
But
have
I
to sit here
have
and go.
to. I have to
But it's
want to. Yeah,
same
yeah,
thing
I
though.
agree.
Same thing
I
though.
agree, Brian.
From my perspective, I have to take that into account and go. Yeah, you're right. Okay, this is a huge paradigm shift. This is
Yep.
bigger. Whereas I might think like, what's the big deal about it? That's so stupid. Like
Well,
there's things
you're
that are
so
far
spot
worse
on.
for you. You know what I'm saying? How more
Right,
people
right.
die from alcohol than have ever died from marijuana? What?
Exactly. And we haven't touched the numbers of road people that die on the road because of the alcohol related attacks with
yeah.
motor
Or what?
vehicles,
Yeah,
accidents, right? But think of this, okay? So recently, in many of the states across our country, and this happens in the world too, they've let a lot of people out of jail because they said, when we take a look at it and we measure this,
yeah,
a lot of these were dope crimes and marijuana, meaning dope, not like
yeah,
heavy,
yeah,
cocaine type Schedule 1 and 2 narcotics. But the problem is that those agencies and those cities and those governments said, hey, and we had a spike in crime. Yeah, one, people that go to jail generally become recidivists, and a very small amount of the people that are in the jail recur and commit those same crimes over and over and over and go back to jail. Now, that's not necessarily so with a low-level marijuana crime,
right.
but the problem is that overgeneralization, we're
Yes,
saying that this person was only dealing with marijuana, not that it was a part of a cartel and people died
yeah,
while they were plotting their crime. And we're talking about tons of marijuana. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And it's the same thing with the election. I can go to a person on election day. I go get my hair cut in town. And it's the greatest thing in the world because you go into town and you got Republicans and Dems and then Whigs and Tories and the Bull Moose Party here in Gunnison
yeah,
because they're still walking around with flintlocks, yeah? And so I'm sitting in there and you can't say anything around election day because everybody's got their story on a candidate. Well, I heard that Trump actually was down at Area 51 getting a blood infusion from an alien, that he's actually part alien. Did you know that?
accepted.
You remember that? What is it? Mr. Deeds. If you ever want to watch a dumb movie, but you'll laugh because everything Sandler does is over the top dumb. Do you remember
Yeah,
when he goes, "Hey, I'm Mandrake Falls assistant
yeah.
fire chief," and he climbs that building, and he's doing parkour. That's all he's doing. And the guy goes, "Well, how is he doing the parkour?" And he goes, "He's got monkey blood in him." Okay, I sat and howled at that line because it's so stupid. But this is what I get sometime, and now I can't go to the same barbershop. Thanks, there's only 2 in town. But this is
Yeah.
what I get sometime: is somebody will come up with this story that is so off the beaten path. But you know what? There's 3 or 4 people go, I heard that same thing too. And they're willing to fight over it. And then Bernie Sanders is a dyed-in-the-wool communist. You get what I'm trying to say? And he was shirtless with Putin over the weekend. Listen, none of that stuff is true. And
Yeah.
of the stuff that is true, it's not going to impact your
Well,
day-to-day life. And if you only knew what was going on in your name of politics, you get what I'm
yeah.
trying to
Well,
say?
that's you brought up with specifically, of course, when you're talking about, letting people out of prison, and
Yep.
that's another great,
That's
example
a
of how
trigger point, man.
well, these are all, each one of those situations, each one of those cases of each one of those individuals, of those criminals who were convicted. It's a nuanced case. There's a lot of
Yep.
nuance, and what you have to do is when you remember, when you're trying to make a policy, the policy has to generalize, right? Because it's
Yes.
policy,
Has to
right?
be
So it has
vanilla,
to.
baby.
So it's got to be. It's going to affect. There's some people are gonna. It's not going to work out for. Some people it will work out for, and there's going to be situations that come up that challenge that. That's why we have case law in the U.S., right?
Yep.
Where it goes, well, wait a minute, for this case, that's not true. So I think everyone needs to just remember, with all these are all very nuanced
Yep.
policies and situations. So you when when that politician is trying to simplify things, oh, it's all about this. You're like, well, no, it's not. These
Exactly.
things they affect people in
Wide-ranging
different ways.
effects. Exactly.
But so why is it, Greg, that people, and this is a general question,
Yeah.
get so emotionally involved in politics, and emotionally or responded to stuff, or have these very, very strong beliefs, regardless of how much information they know, right?
Yep.
And I bring this up because I'm always curious, is the average person in the United States, how much does the president and the president who gets elected, whether that's Democrat or Republican,
Mm-hmm.
how much do their policy and what they actually do affect their everyday life? And I think if you got heated about your local elections, or
Yes.
your state reps, or
Yep.
your federal representatives, that I could see, because that has more direct effect on you. Whereas these big popularity contests we have for the presidency is kind of, look,
No, that's a
well,
great.
but it's
That's a
it's
wonderful
it's
question.
affected you and I know that for a
Yep.
fact, right? And I can
I
speak.
sit in the back seat now, folks. I can't
Well,
take him.
no, but here's the thing.
I
Meaning,
know what
I've
you
been
mean.
working on stuff, and a new president came in,
Yep.
and they changed their foreign policy, and they said, we're
Yep.
doing this or we're doing that, and then all of a sudden, boom, hey, this program's cut. Pack your
All
bags and
those
go home,
jobs left.
or
Yep.
go home. Go do
Yep.
this. We're not doing. It's like, wait a minute, we're knee deep in this. We've made these relationships. We're going to do this, and now because someone else came in with a different attitude, we're just at that. Oh, hey, drop, pop smoke and leave. Like, holy
Yes.
crap! Like, every administration since
So what
Bush.
are you telling me though? It's about money.
Well,
Okay.
but I'm
When
saying
it comes to
it's
those corporations.
those decisions have personally affected my life.
Yes, me too,
And
buddy. I get it.
but most people, I don't think that's the case.
No. So
I don't
first
get
of
that
all,
emotional about electing the president. I go, it's just going to be
first of
the other
all,
guy. Yeah, it's the
the only thing
pendulum
that we're going to
swing.
talk about is the means and the extremes,
Yeah.
because everything that's in the middle is vanilla,
Okay.
and most people don't care. And when I say don't care, what I'm trying to say is there's not such an egregious impact on their lives that they're going to go out and shoot their neighbor. Okay, those are the means or the extremes, and both sides have an extreme. But I'll give you a pressure point argument. I'll give you one right here. So a candidate, and again, be apolitical, folks. Sit down, think about that thing, and just like the math you do when you're at Kohl's about buying a new blouse,
Yeah.
apply that to everything else that you do. This is the best value. I can afford this. I can't afford that. Right, Brian? We do
Yep.
that in our normal lives. So here you got this candidate that says day before yesterday says, and I'm paraphrasing. That's the other thing, because I'm not giving you the exact quote, so therefore I'm twisting it, even though I don't want to twist it, Brian. When
Yeah.
I
It's just going to
paraphrase
happen.
something,
Right.
I have to. Okay.
Yeah.
But the idea was that, listen, anybody that comes to this country illegally, if they're in this country illegally, they deserve the full protection of the law. Okay, well, that's true. Okay. They also deserve the full benefits that everybody that's a citizen gets. And that's where some people go off the rail. Now, what's the difference? Listen, if you're in our country, you deserve the full protection no matter where you are from, no matter what you're doing, as long as you're on the
Right.
side of right and
fall within the.
stealing you or
Yeah.
robbing
Yeah.
you or something like that, we got to step in. That's the way it is. Okay. But when it comes to stuff like, hey, I want this equal pay and I want this, why don't we think that somebody else get? Well, because we're basically selfish enough to say, I think I've done more than that. I've paid into our system. I've done.
Right.
So change is never fun. Nobody ever wants to talk about that. And when somebody goes, well, yeah, but this immigrant is not unlike your great grandfather Bill that was an
Yeah.
immigrant here.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, okay. We don't want to see it in terms of those things. Yeah.
No.
So I would liken it, instead of attaching such a deep emotional fixture to it, I would say liken it to something that you do every day. Why did you choose to go to KFC rather than to go to Whole Foods and get a salad? Why did you choose to spend this much on this pair of shoes because they can be used, duplicitously for hiking or going to work? okay, we make decisions like that all our lives, right? But
Right.
when it comes to these decisions, we get stupid because we think that the investment is a much greater deal. We also think that individually, we're going to feel the burn. And that's what I think we fight about more often than not.
And I think, yeah, that's a good point. But also, those individual cases at an individual level, I think people are much more reasonable, right? They're like, okay, well, no, I don't want to
Yes.
give that guy a handout, but I'll give him a hand up, right?
I'll give him a
Like,
hand up any day of the week.
but it's when this goes in from taking something that's nuanced into something that has to be general for a policy. Well,
Yes.
it doesn't always come out clean, and not everyone's going to get
Right.
what they want.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Now
So,
in Colorado,
but I think
Brian,
if you approach it that way, like, look, if you're this is not it's not a zero-sum game, right?
exactly. And
I'm
it's not
going
us
to
versus them. It's all, we're all in
right
it together.
with all of these policies, and like and I think this is a big problem with a lot of what happens with the politicians in DC. And it's hard because we're all on the outside looking in saying, hey, you guys
Yes.
all suck, you're not working together. But I guarantee there's a whole bunch of them that are really trying hard to work together.
And we're not watching them 24 hours a day. We don't know what they're doing right now.
But
I agree.
the idea is, you can't come into this going, hey, I'm going to get everything I want. Or when you make policy, like we instead of this stuff gets watered down, because let's say someone will come in and say, hey, this is what I want, and then the other side is like, well, we're never going to give you that, so you got to get rid of this and this and this and this
Yep.
and this, and then that person goes, all right, fine.
And those concessions aren't always easy, folks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But they'll make those concessions, and then so the people that they were fighting for don't even really get that much of what they were expecting.
Yep.
And so it's almost like now we're only throwing a little bit. I think
really not what we intended at the beginning either.
But then
right.
why don't they make it more collaborative, where
Yes.
the left can come up and say, look, here's everything that we want, and then the right says, hey, all right, here's everything that we want. How do we give each other everything that we want? Like, if you give me all this, you get all of what you want. But it doesn't, and I know that's so much more, I'm oversimplifying.
No, but it's okay to do that. So every once in a while, throw a little ripple into that pond.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a ripple into that pond. Does that sound just inside my head?
I think so.
Exactly. So I'll give you a ripple that's in the pond. So our governor, and I haven't been a fan of his recent policies, even though I'm apolitical. It just every once in a while something comes up that's controversial, and I don't like controversy. You know that. I like wavy gravy, chili Palmer. Everything's going to be good, because I don't like change. Change scares me. I'm an older guy now, so change scares me even more than when I was your age, Brian. So he comes up and he says, hey, we've got this legislation that's going to pass where we're going to make it free daycare for anyone and free kindergarten if your kids are going to school. And the idea is, first of all, nothing's ever free.
Right.
So that means that my money that I'm paying legally into the taxes, and specifically for all the different things that I do, and Colorado's not cheap to live in Colorado, is going to this guy, and my kids are all grown up, and I paid for all of their stuff, but now he's going to get something for nothing. Do you get what I'm saying? And I resent that. And so I'm not thinking anymore of, hey, this is what's great for all kids. All kids should deserve this, because it equalizes the playing field. I'm immediately going socialism.
Well,
you bastards, how dare you?
But it's actually, but that's the thing, is that if you don't see what is the intent behind this? What does it actually mean for? Because now,
and it is good for all society.
Right, because if those kids get to go to a full day of kindergarten for free and after school care, guess what their parent gets to do? Gets to have a job and gets to work full time
and make more money for them. Now we don't have that struggle.
And so that's an investment.
Exactly.
Is when that kid is fully formed and working and doing well in society.
But what's your knee jerk? What's your knee jerk reaction?
Of course.
And only few Americans, and we're just talking in our borders because our elections are coming up. The average person in middle America, meaning middle America anywhere except the extreme places like New York and where you live, you get people, and I'm just joking, folks, but you get people that pull up and they see, I am in this one. You see a bumper sticker, and the bumper sticker says, "My kid's an honor roll student." Brian, 98 people out of 100 in our great country do what when they see that bumper sticker? Well, first of all, 98% of the people don't read it because they're busy driving like maniacs. But if they did take time in a traffic jam to read that, 98% of the people go, "Good on you. That's wonderful. I'm happy for you." What are the 2%? One over here and one over here. What do they say? I apologize. It's been an interesting day.
Yeah, no,
What did they
they're
say,
the
Brian?
ones. So no, oh, you think you're so? Oh, you think your
Exactly.
kid
Your
is so
shit
special?
doesn't
Yeah.
stink. I can see your dad and my dad. My dad would want to ram the car out of the way and go, my 3 kids are right back here and they can throw a rocket
Well,
through a
yeah,
wall or
exactly.
whatever. Do you see what
What
I'm saying?
they would have the bumper stickers. You know, the my kid can kick your honor student's ass or something like that,
Exactly.
which is
Exactly.
just
But
showing.
almost nobody does that.
Yeah,
But listen, when you're in the film crew business, and you're running around and you see it all the time. This family just had, they said home invasion. So I tuned in right away. I hate the news. And the home invasion was a guy had a seizure and drove through the porch of a house, destroying the house. So first of all, that was their clever pun, which just pissed me off. And the second thing is that people are out $125,000 at the house. They only have insurance for $55,000 on the house. And the guy got a $500 fine for not declaring or driving when he was on his medicine and the medicine made him drowsy or whatever. Okay.
yeah,
So this is a lose-lose that's all
yeah.
the way
No one
around
wins,
the
right?
block, right? So they come up and they put the camera, they find Slim that's standing in the corner and they go, do you have anything to do with this? No. Do you have an opinion on this? No. Have you, huffed some paint today? Yes, I have. And they stick the camera in his mouth and go, what do you think? And he goes, hey, shit, take him out and shoot him. And it just goes, do you see what I'm trying to say,
Well,
though? But why is it that those are the repetitive messages we get?
yeah,
Again, we're dealing with the investment from journalists, the investment from news, the investment. Brian, do you remember the days not too long ago when they would have 8 lawyers all in their
oh, that's
individual
brutal. Yeah,
squares and everybody was screaming to be heard over anybody else? What did that accomplish? That accomplished
that's
getting
still
your
going
blood
on.
pressure up.
It's still
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on.
but
It's slowly
it
dying.
cannot.
It's
It
slowly
better die.
dying. No, that's
I
why
will
people.
celebrate its death, Brian.
That's why people are listening to podcasts. Well, but that goes back to
Yeah, good point.
when
Not
they
ours, but
yeah.
most podcasts.
I'm,
So I'm sorry, it was one of our call. Hey, just so you know, folks, that was our only fan in Gunnison, and he was going, "Can you talk louder? I'm a long way away from the phone."
But that goes to a few things, but I mean I already forgot where the hell we were at.
Yeah,
Completely lost my train of thought.
It's thinking of the general populace,
Right.
and saying what's best for all of us because we're all in this together.
Well, you have to. All right, it's two things. So you're watching it. Let's say I just watched a super interesting interview conversation with this physicist guy who is answering all these really complicated questions and bringing it down to like, hey, here's what we know, here's what we can prove, and it was like super fascinating stuff. And he's like explaining, even down to Einstein's theories, like what does that actually mean? He's like, well, here's how you understand that, right?
Yep.
Super, super fascinating. But you'll see something like that, and then they'll go like, hey, well, let's go ask Bill out on the street, and the guy's like, that's a bunch of crock. It's like, wait, why are we asking Bill on the street about
have to
about the theory of relativity?
You're exactly right.
Because
or you go the opposite direction. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Huge fan. Yeah. So a couple of months back, there was a very simple softball.
Oh, God, yeah.
And he hit it out of the park, and he was absolutely right in what he said. But what did the people, the naysayers, the flat earthers, Brian, that you just murdered, what did they say? They attacked him to the point that on social media he apologized for his position.
Which is horrible.
You have an opinion, and it's okay to have your opinion as long as your opinion's not hurting a bunch of people.
No, it's an informed opinion. But to take that back to
one of the smartest guys in the world.
Yeah, to take it back to the guy out on the street.
Slim.
You got to pay attention to that though, because there's a lot of people out there who think that way. So it's like, all right, well, how do we reach that guy? That's what you got to be thinking. Yeah. Not turning people off or turning people away. It's all right. We got to bring Slim.
Yes, but information, too much information leads to poor decisions as well. So if we talk something as obtuse as John Boyd's OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. Yeah. I've heard it described and explained, and everybody that's tried sounds like the village idiot. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It sounds like a guy standing on a chair at the Waffle House.
I've seen the same YouTube videos that get hundreds of thousands of views, and I'm like, this guy does not sound smart.
Two, put it in context, and you bring the relevance. Brian, if I'm going to give you the context, you got to bring the relevance. If I bring a relevance to an argument, then you got to give me the context in which it's observed. If those two things don't come together, there's no point in what's going on. So what's happening is what they're doing is they're saying, I want to take OODA, but I'm going to take out the second O. You get what I'm trying to say? And I'm going to replace it with a starfish. Go. Okay, you can't do that. There are certain very simple scientific principles that you got to follow. And people are generally, all of us grew up and I'm talking wide-based evolution, big picture, Brian, in small groups and sets of about 200 people. And in
Right, or
that
less.
group
Yeah.
or that tribe that
Yeah.
we had a certain amount of those people that took care of us. So they became
Mm-hmm.
the police and the emergency services and first responders. We had a couple of people that knew how to negotiate with other tribes, and they became our
Mm-hmm.
politicians, right? And then we had the hunters, and then we had the gatherers.
You had the
Okay, I think
storytellers, and you had
yes,
the
yes. And what were the storytellers? Our
they were the
teachers.
keep.
And
Yeah.
so the thing is that when we think of it like that, and we sit down and give ourselves the gift of time and distance, which I truly believe in, Brian, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
And we say, okay, we're going to take away this extreme, just like when we're doing calculus or a math problem. We're going to take this extreme out, we're going to take this extreme out, and we're only going to look at these because these numbers, these ones, it just skew our results horribly. And we say, what's best for everybody here? Listen, I don't want this election that's coming up in a week. I don't want, and it's going to be a couple of days after the folks hear this. I don't want people doing mayhem and doing vehicle attack, ramming attacks, and doing shootings and all these other stuff. Because if they're going to do it one way or the other, they're going to do it around an event like this, and they're going to do it at a place like this. We know that. We
Right.
know. Why did the guy go to the hookah bar? Because I got to bring the gosh damn homicide to you, or bring you to the homicide. I got to
Right.
bring the crime scene to you, or you to the crime scene. The ambush to you, and you to the ambush. And it's that simple, Brian. When we're taking a look at these, anytime that we got these high emotional content events that are going to happen,
Okay.
somebody's going to walk in and they're going to do something stupid. So I think one,
Well,
cautionary
I,
tale.
I think
Two,
that's a good
give
way
yourself
to
the gift of time and distance.
to label it, right? To call it what it is, a high emotional content event. Well,
Yes,
that's a funeral.
exactly.
That's
A
a
wedding,
political
a
rally.
baby's
That's a
birth. You're exactly right.
protest. That's a
Yep.
protest. That's a political. That's a you know a ballot. That's the ballot box, man. How many times have there been attacks during an election throughout the history of the world?
Yes.
Like all of them, like probably almost every election, unless
Yep.
it was like the local, church group electing their what. I mean, when you have
Because
a large
somebody
scale
is
thing, like
losing
yes,
power, they're losing control, they're losing money.
or
And you put it in a very simple way, how it affected you. And now imagine well, for
or they think
example, when
they
we
are,
looked
but
at a place where the mullahs in a certain village knew that the election was going to take them out of power and it was going to put
mm-hmm.
a figurehead into the power.
Yep.
How did we see those street fights start? And how
Well,
many people had to die?
well, that was the that was the call it. Hey, how many people have been in there to vote so far today?
Yep.
3 of the guys that are working for us. That's about
Exactly.
it. Like
Exactly.
everyone's staying home today,
Yep.
and that's
And it's so sad, but that's absolutely true.
Horribly
Every
sad.
one of the vets that worked in those places that we
Yeah.
worked in, and I'm not trying to say jack shit about the religion. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what politics you are. But I am saying that when you get those, look, how many times were we at a wedding or heard about a wedding in a district we were, Brian, where during the wedding, one of the families threw a grenade because they were celebrating the wedding of the two people, and that turned into a firefight. Now that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
So that's dumb mistakes. We don't want this election to turn into one, dumb mistakes, two, intentional acts of violence, three, any type of altercation. There was a shooting in a Denver Walmart just a day ago, and the beginning of the thing, I cry like a baby now. My TSD is manifested into me just crying when the wind blows too hard. And they had these two old women that were standing outside, and the interviewer said, "Hey, listen, what happened inside?" And a female and a male were shooting it out in the store. And they started very calmly, and they said, "This is our Sunday morning. We were going shopping." And then they burst down into tears, and they were sobbing, Brian, and it killed me to my soul. Making anybody afraid to go and vote or to go and buy food or clothes at a Walmart, you don't have that right. And I stand firmly against that. And I hope everybody in America would do that. Your opinion is your own. And I pledged allegiance to not only our country, but our Constitution, which allows you to be as different as you want to be. And I'm willing to fight. And I was willing to die for it, Brian.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we got to go back to. We got to go back to that universal level of respect, even though I disagree with the hedonistic lifestyle Brian Marin leads.
Mm-hmm.
He is my valued friend, and therefore I put up with it. And on a grander scale,
and occasionally dabble in it, but
even though once a year I have to have him with this much Jameson and this much Shamrock Shake, trying to tell me the terrors of the world. No, but I'm just saying.
Well,
Brian,
Yeah, but this all ties into it's a choice. So you have to make a personal responsibility and a personal effort, right? So you
Yes.
just understand the fact that because you're going to see it, people attacking political rallies, people
Yes.
attacking polling places, and it gets sensationalized. I mean, it's as it should be, meaning it's news. I get it, but don't get in this idea of, oh my God, everything's chaos. Like, look, this has
Right.
happened in
Right.
every
Or that
election
this is
in
normal.
the
It's
history of the
not. It's
world.
absolutely
There's
not.
always
Yes.
going to be someone out there who takes it too far. So just
And
protect
stand
yourself and
up and
your
say
community.
no.
But that's the
Exactly.
thing. It's just you focus on you and what you can influence in your immediate area, right? So
You're
you can
exactly
you
right.
make yourself safer, you're making the group you're with safer. Okay, if you
You're
make the group
exactly
you're with
right.
safer, you're making your community safe. You're making your community like that's how it builds.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
But
bottom
Brian,
up and top down.
counterpoint that too. If you see something, say something. Well, this is
Yeah,
one of those places where I should see that campaign on television every day. But what do I see? I see a bunch of ads, ad. And
yeah.
what do the ads say? The ads are counterproductive because this guy's a jerk and he's going to take this and he's going to do that. And again, they foment hate. My thing to you folks is that if you see somebody that needs a hand up, like Brian said it so eloquently earlier, you give them that hand up. I'm not a big fan of giving a hand out. If you see somebody that's hurt and say something, we wonder why that there's spikes in suicides. Well, listen, when you got nothing to lose. And if you just have a good word for somebody, if you just open a door for somebody, if you just back off and give the gift of time and distance and say, wow, I may want to shut my mouth at this point, or I may want to speak up, your personal responsibility. You don't have to do it, but think about a greater world or community or day at that restaurant or that voting booth could be if you just took responsibility for your own actions.
Well,
Just a
that's
quick comment.
I don't. It's not my fault, and I don't want to take responsibility. But
Yeah.
on this, so next month we'll get into. I just want to kind of go back to because it's March now when this is going to be released. We're just folks who just record usually about a week prior or something, few days depending on what time we
What
have.
time Brian got out of rehab?
what what time my parole board hearing is
Exactly.
at.
Exactly. Bond money, folks.
But the idea is this is going to get released basically like March 1st or 2nd, right at the beginning of the March, and March is a big one, right? We beware the Ides of March, and people like to
Yep.
get hey, very historical about this stuff, and they like to tie in everything. Now we'll get to April, so April's theme next month will be April is the cruelest month, for
There
the
we
same
go.
kind of
Another
similar
lesson
reason,
learned.
right?
Yep.
Another lesson learned, but why? What is it about? Because let's take real big picture because that'll lead into next month is what is it? What does it beware the Ides of March? Where does that come from? What does that have to do with the environment and change the seasons and why certain things
Exactly.
happen?
But
What's going to
folks,
happen in Afghanistan now? I know we're in peace
yes.
talks with
Well,
the leagues,
there was the thing.
but what's happening?
Remember how many of our TERP translators or the people that we were dealing with that wintertime they were going home and you were going like, no,
Like, hey man,
we
we
played
need
all
you.
year, dude.
No,
And
no,
they're
no.
going like, no, you
We'll
don't
be
have to worry
back.
about anything till the spring thaw. Yeah. So I'm just saying that if you increase, first of all, HBPRNA, anybody that you see that's out there that's posing with just situational awareness, don't buy into that crap. Increasing your situational awareness isn't what they're selling you.
No,
It isn't
it's
this situational awareness comes from you understanding your relationship to your environment and the environment's relationship to you. And if you can't read those signals of homeostasis, then how are you going to baseline and detect an anomaly? And that right there, ask that from an answer from the guy that's selling the crap on the 2-minute video, the 5-minute abs. Well, Brian has 4-minute abs. And what I'm telling you is you're responsible for your own safety and security. We're coming into a period of time that historically, even back to
historically,
the earliest times,
yeah,
that when seasons changed, so did people. And sometimes right after a certain season, people said, "Oh, the Groundhog Day." Some people are blowing their brains out after Groundhog Day, Brian, because they
yeah.
just can't take 6 damn more weeks of winter. Do you understand what I'm saying? And understanding that sometimes is enough. Understanding and saying, "I hear you. What's on your mind?
Well,
What's going on with you today?"
and that's what I was getting at, though. I mean, from a historical perspective, it's literally starting the change of seasons.
You're exactly
So this
right.
is when, as prehistoric humans were coming out. We were no longer just holed up for the winter, trying to survive. Now that's changing.
Our
Now it's getting
females
warmer.
are impregnated.
Yep. So
They are our most prized possession is our next generation, Brian.
Yeah, so now we have to go out there, and it's starting that whole so that could lead to what? You go to places like Afghanistan. What does that mean? Well, that's an uptick in fighting because that snow's starting to melt, and we can move around a little bit more. We have mobility, so it could be a negative thing. It could be a positive thing, right? We changing of the year, changing of the seasons. It's a rebirth, right? The dead part of the year of the winter is over, so now we come out into the light. I mean, this is all what we're talking about, and I think that's why you see
huge emotional input.
And that goes back into the emotional content event. That's what an election is, around at the same time of the year where there's an emotional content change within humans. So we wonder why these things start to coalesce around the same time, and it's actually it's as old as time itself, right?
It really is, Brian. It really is. And being aware of just that simple fact can make you take notice of it even more. It's not just increasing your situational awareness. If you don't have the known, the unknown, and the baseline to measure it against, even detecting that atmospheric change, for example, isn't going to help you be safer or stronger or smarter, is it? You got to know when to, you dial 911, and you got to know when to hover your finger over the other one. And the way to do that is to put these situations together. You're going to have a very highly emotional content driven event. You're going to have a lot of people. Listen, if you see a person acting in a strange or suspicious manner, you got to do something. You got to step in. You got to say something. You got to call somebody. You got to pull somebody out of danger's way. You know why? Because this is an important part of what it is to be an American. And in our society, voting is an absolute right, and we have to stand behind that. If we allow the fabric of this institution to become frayed, and people don't step up and stand up for their fellow man, then what's going to be next? What's going to be in 20 or 30 or 50
I agree. And then maybe one other thing, I don't know how you what you would agree with this statement, but mine is if you don't do your simple civic duty of voting, I don't want to hear you talk about politics. If you don't get involved,
absolutely amazing,
if you're
Brian.
not going to get involved, don't shut up. Because you have to go out. Because guess what?
You got to vote.
We're so but it's
so easy now.
But it is and it isn't. I mean, it's very simple to do, but it's now almost because of how our lives are. It's almost an inconvenience. And like
you're
like,
it's an inconvenience.
Yep,
exactly.
Because we're hooked on our phones. But
if you made an app for it, we do it every day.
Yeah, and I'm kind of against that actually for a number of reasons. I think you should have to get up and go do it. No,
you need to get your ass out of your chair or wheel yourself down or have somebody carry you to vote.
And that's why you look at you look at politicians and how they go after certain segments of the population and people, certain areas, and it's not always the loudest people that they go after who are always on social media or something. Why? Because those people aren't voting, right? They're going after the senior groups because every one of them is organized and they're going to vote. They're going to go after the community organizations. Why? Because they're all organized and they vote. And when I find out someone who doesn't vote,
what about the comment?
You don't get to talk about it.
Brian, what about the comment that they says my individual vote doesn't matter? Now more than ever.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, your individual vote matters, because there was a time these last probably 10, 15 years where you couldn't tell the difference between the party, and now all of a sudden the parties are so damn different you don't know what's going on, and they're very tumultuous. So your vote counts.
Infighting.
So
there's
much.
all. Yeah. There's but it's normal politics, and I think
normal, and it's not wild or crazy.
If anything, I would say that the turnout, the voting, and for the next actual presidential election, what is it? Is it ever like some where someone wins by a blowaway, like where it's just a blowout amount? Like I don't even no. What happens? It's like one person gets about 51% and the other 49%. That's our democracy at work, right? It's showing us how people go back and forth and how it can work.
Of the people that voted.
We
not
generally,
of the country, but of the people that voted. You're right.
Yeah, we generally have something similar, because if you're that close, if it was 80% versus 20%, it'd be a completely different country.
Yep.
I don't know if we'd like it.
The old Super Bowls. You remember the old Super Bowls that everybody would go and we'd play cards and we'd bet on a bingo square, but nobody would watch the games because they were a rout, and it's not fun being routed. Nobody likes it.
All right. Well, I think that's.
You were on a lot of losing teams, Brian. So I know that last comment. I just want to back up, and folks, I'm sorry that I brought that up.
So I've seen the 1986 Super Bowl where the Bears win, because that's the last one they did, like, once a year when I was a kid. And that's all people in Chicago still talk about, because we have to. We're the greatest football team ever, okay?
So
I don't care if it was 30 years ago.
That is so funny.
Yeah. All right.
Well, hey, good talk. Be safe, folks. Be good to each other, and give yourself the gift of time and distance this election year.
Don't forget, training changes behavior.